welcome to the one and only Team 2.
G'day guys, how are we doing? Welcome to Talking Boxing. It is Monday, May the 5th, 2025. You'd think I'd get the date right considering I have to do a show every single morning, but great to have you all along. What a weekend it was. Or was it? We've had the 3 big shows over the weekend. I'm really interested to hear your thoughts tonight or in this episode about what you thought of, firstly, the show on Saturday morning, which was the Ryan Garcia, Roller Ramiro card, Devin Haney, Jose Ramirez, and Teofimo Lopez and Arnold Barboza. Then on Sunday morning, we had the Canelo Alvarez, whatever the hell that card was. I'm still struggling to get my head around that fight. We'll get to that. I'm sure you've all had your say as well. And then this morning, Naoya Inoue. I had a few people say, well, don't get too excited. Naoya Inoue, rescued the weekend and how good it was. And he was fantastic. He did get dropped again, though, by, now I was calling him Cardenas, but it's Cardenas, I think they were saying on the footage of the broadcast today. I also had a bit to say this morning on Walking Boxing. So if you haven't seen it, check that out. Do you support and still support, if it has been the case since day one, Turki Al Sheikh and the whole Riyadh season movement? Because I've had enough of it. Again, go back and check it out this morning. Let us know your thoughts. A lot of feedback today about it, and surprisingly, a lot of positive remarks about it. I expected people to say, mate, you are on drugs. What the hell are you thinking? He is the savior of boxing. My argument is that, okay, the savior of boxing, did boxing need saving? I did say 95% of the big fights always get made. And these so-called mega events in Saudi Arabia, for me, they lack that big fight or big event atmosphere. They lack everything as far as I'm concerned. And I think it come to a head over the weekend because what a shocking weekend of boxing. And especially the Canelo Alvarez and Williams School fight. Canelo threw 152 punches for the entire fight. That is 12 to 13 punches per round. That is it in a 12-round fight. Now, he put all the blame on Williams School, blamed him for everything, and to some extent, I suppose he was right because Williams School boxed and moved and didn't want to engage. But, geez, I think the wrong fighter was copying the majority of the flack because Canelo Alvarez, for me, is the one that didn't want to engage. He did not even try and up the pace and make a fight of it. But anyway, let's get into it. I want to hear your thoughts now. Oh, actually, one thing we are going to do in probably about 30 minutes' time, we're going to have a quick chat with Grant Tazzy Brown. Now, as everyone knows, Tazzy's a good friend of this channel, of course, spent a lot of time on this channel. He's doing his own thing now. He's bringing Terence Crawford to Australia at the end of this month, and spoke to him today. I'm going to get him on to have a quick chat about what's going on with Terence Crawford coming to Australia. So I know it's normally just myself and you guys out there, but we'll speak to Tazzy for 15 or 20 minutes and get his thoughts on Terence Crawford coming, but also what happened over the weekend. Let's get into it. We'll start with old mate Big J. Hey, mate, looks like the winter is right for world title fights. Opetaya, Tim and George all happening in June, July. Tim and Fundora 2 is a true 50-50 fight. I wonder if GK can catch lightning in a bottle twice. Well, he's a chance, Big J, isn't he? I mean, you've got to be in it to win it. I know a lot of people have written him off already based on the fights with Haney and Lomachenko, and I suppose to some extent they are right because Hitchens is a pretty slick type of guy, and I'm sure he'll be hard to catch. But one thing I always respect about George Kambosos is he always turns up. He always wants to fight the best. And yeah, okay, he hasn't had the results in a few of those fights, but geez, I don't think even his most ardent detractors could take anything away from him as a fighter, saying, "Hey, let's go. I want all the big guys." So it's possible, mate. But yeah, it is interesting. It's June and July. So what is it? Opatire is on June 8th. Excuse me, got something over there. June the 8th. George is June the 14th, and then Tim is July 19th. So you're going to be a big winter as well for everyone this year. What else have we got there? I'm just going to go in no particular order here. Ryan Gray. Hey, mate, getting tougher each year to be a Blue supporter. Yeah, you're telling me, Ryan. That aside, you need to watch JD. Oh, is that Della Maddalena, I think his name is, in the UFC this weekend. Title on the line, Perth boy, come on Aussie. Yeah, I'm going to watch it, Ryan, because we've got it on at the pub. We've signed up to this loyalty thing with the MMA or the UFC. So we had to take all the fights to get our 30% discount. So I will be watching. I don't know anything about him, Ryan. Never seen him fight. Never heard of him. The guy he's fighting as well is at Bilal Muhammad. Never heard of him either. I'm a bit worried whether we'll get anyone turn up to the pub to watch it, if I'm being honest, Ryan. But we'll see how we go. And certainly not going to get anyone to turn up and watch the Blues at the moment, are we? They were absolutely putrid on Saturday. And just when you get your hopes up a little bit with the win over Geelong last week, they go back to being the Carlton that we all know, mate. And absolutely pathetic they were. So anyway. All right, Asbot. T female looks sharp as hell on the weekend. Haney and Garcia, not so much. Happy for Rolly. Everyone takes the piss out of him. Well, they do. And I, for one, Asbot thought that he would get his ass handed to him on the weekend. But I tell you what, Ryan Garcia just didn't turn up. I don't know where his head was at on the weekend, but he looked like he wanted to be anywhere else except for Times Square. It was bizarre. And he just, even when he got knocked down, I think I said on the Walking Boxing episode, there was no emotion, got back up, didn't really try to get back into the fight. He was just in no man's land, Ryan Garcia. I don't know what was going on with him, but that's what happens sometimes. You go in there and you just can't put it together. He did say he had not a great camp. Isn't it amazing? He had a clean camp. There was no drinking, no smoking, none of that sort of stuff. And that's the performance that he put in. So only he knows what happened there, mate. But, yeah, a bizarre performance from Ryan Garcia. And, look, credit to Rolly Romero. I'm happy for him as well. But he had no right to beat Ryan Garcia in that fight. And Floyd Mayweather Jr. actually picked this, about 5 years ago. I saw a video about that on the weekend. He said 5 years ago Garcia couldn't beat Romero. And he would know, wouldn't he? All right, we've got our first super chat. Andy, how are you there, mate? What have we got there? $10. Thank you very much, mate. I really appreciate it. Very unexpected outcomes this weekend. Flat and underwhelming in places, but congratulations to all the winners. Smash that like button, please, folks. Yeah, no, I really appreciate that, mate. And all your contributions are appreciated. All right, who else we got there? Cal Jane. In-away fight was the best. Not sure if fighters going soft money is the root of all evil. Yeah, isn't it funny though, Cal? Because I know they're getting really well paid, but are they getting that much more than what a lot of these other guys have earned? I mean, we had some of the best fights we've had, or well, look at someone like an Oscar De La Hoya. He would have been getting paid millions every fight. But he always turned up to fight, always gave it his heart and soul. Manny Pacquiao the same. You know, all the back in the day, Tyson, they always turned up. Now, I don't know, you might be right, they're all getting a little bit complacent at the moment, but for whatever reason, the fighters at the moment, they're all in self-preservation mode. I don't know whether it's the way they're taught these days, but I mean, guys like Canelo back in the day was super exciting. Action-packed fights he was always in, and now he just doesn't even look like he's even attempting to make a fight of it. He's almost like Canelo I'm talking about. That's what happened on the weekend. I said, again on the episode this morning, that halfway through the first round, it's almost like, oh, well, this is going the way that I expected and everyone else expected. This guy's not going to try and win, so I'll just go through the motions, do as little as possible, and just take my paycheck and go home. Now, he's earning $400 million for 4 fights. Do you really think that fight was worth $100 million? For him to throw 12 to 13 punches around and not even attempt to give the fans any value for money. He thought school, he just, he hasn't come to fight. So this is a nice, easy night. I'll just go through the motions and do nothing. I think he owed more to the fans. You would never see a fighter like a Pacquiao or a Tyson or any of those guys, a De La Hoya, or any of those that would have an opponent overwhelmed or on the back foot and not wanting to engage. They would do everything they possibly could to get him out of there. And the old Canelo would have as well. I don't know. I just can't make sense of the whole weekend. My head is just spinning for all the wrong reasons at the moment. I just cannot believe that a fighter like Canelo, who's always been about the Mexican heritage and being a warrior, would just put in that performance yesterday. And I understand School didn't come to fight. I get it. I understand it. But Canelo didn't come to fight either. It's just that he was just the slight aggressor. And the commentators were saying he'd won every round. I didn't think that at all. I thought, what was it? One of the judges had it 7 rounds to 5. I might have had it 8 rounds to 4. But I certainly don't think it was an absolute whitewash. But geez, Canelo, just does this give all the detractors of the Crawford fight something to think about? Because I tell you what, the way Canelo fought yesterday, Terence Crawford beats him. No doubt in my mind. Now, I know Crawford didn't look that great in his last fight either, but I just get the feeling that Crawford is going to rise to this occasion with Canelo. And if Canelo turns up with that mindset that he had yesterday, he's going to lose a 12-round decision. I got no doubt. All right, Naz, happy for Tim. He's got another shot at Fundora, but not sure how Thurman deserves to fight the winner. PBC doing PBC things. Here's a tip for you, Naz. Don't try and understand it, mate. Just go with the flow. Doesn't matter how much you try and analyze it and make sense of it, you're wasting your time. There is talk that maybe Thurman might fight Charlo next. The PBC are going to line that one up. So who knows? This could even end up on the Tim and Fundora undercard, although it looks like a pretty packed card at the moment, doesn't it? Maybe Pacquiao Barrios on that card, which would be great. Maybe Davis and Roach on that card. So it's going to be a cracker. But yeah, there was talk that Thurman will fight Charlo, which would be a good fight. The winner moves on to a world title shot, and the loser is see you later, I would think. Asbot again, hi gang, sorry, but I think it's time for the Canelo retirement tour to fade away. I want to believe that Crawford will be a good fight, but I have my doubts. It's all about the dollars at this point. And that was my argument, Asbot, is that all we ever hear about is just money. Now, I get it. It's prize fighting, and these guys, they put their life on the line, and they put in these massive camps and everything like that, and they deserve to be well paid. But it's almost like at the start with boxing as a whole, whether it be the fans, whether it be the promoters, the fighters, the broadcasters, you name it, we all were like, oh, this is good with Turki Al-Sheikh coming in. It's another person putting some money into it. And I almost get the feeling now, I feel a little bit dirty that we've sold our soul to this whole movement of the Riyadh season movement. Because I think as the journey has gone on since they first came around about, 2019, when they put the Joshua and Ruiz fight in Saudi Arabia, and slowly put more and more fights over there and got more of these big names on board. It's like everyone has just sold their soul to Turki Al-Sheikh and the Riyadh season. And now I just think we're reaping what we sow. That the fighters are lazy, the promoters are lazy, everyone's lazy. As fans, maybe we're lazy. We don't sort of talk about what a lot of the promoters are doing anymore. It's like, what's Riyadh season doing next? It's almost like we've just given everything to Riyadh season, and now we're getting what we deserve. And that is dull fights, lifeless stadiums, half-full stadiums. They try and hide it, but you look at the pictures, that was half-full yesterday in the small arena too, by the way, not the big one. And Canelo Alvarez on Cinco de Mayo weekend is fighting in front of probably a couple of thousand Mexican fans in attendance, trying their utmost to get the Mexican spirit alive for Cinco de Mayo, and it just fell very, very flat. Now, I said this morning, I know I'm referencing that a lot, and I probably will a lot more as the show goes on, but I've been to Vegas probably a dozen times for Cinco de Mayo, and it is one of the best weekends you'll ever have. The whole city is just one big party. It is awesome. The Mexican people, beautiful people, having a ball, and their hero is headlining a fight night at the MGM or T-Mobile Arena, and it's an awesome weekend. And now we've got him going over to a flat library type of atmosphere in Saudi Arabia and putting on a pathetic performance like he did. And as I said again, if this is what it's come to now, let me off. I don't want to be part of the Riyadh train anymore. Take me back to an Oscar or Eddie or Bob, whoever it is, take me back to putting on shows where the big fights need to be and should be. Vegas, New York, Wembley, you name it. Anywhere but Riyadh. Anywhere but. A bit early to get on the soapbox here, isn't it? Not sure I even answered your question there, Asbot, but anyway, we'll move on. All right, Big J, Canelo and Inoue, both terrible in their fights. Bud might have a chance against Canelo, but I still think due to the size differences and inactivity period, advantage Canelo. Yeah, look, I wouldn't necessarily agree as far as Inoue goes. It probably wasn't his most stellar performance, but he did enough. He got dropped again, though, which does raise some question marks for me. At some stage, is someone going to land one that he just can't get up from? Doesn't have to be a superstar. Doesn't have to be MJ. Doesn't have to be Nick Ball. Doesn't have to be any of those guys. It could be anyone. Could have been today. I mean, Cardenas, he had a whipping left hook, a really good left hook. And if he had landed that a little bit cleaner, who knows, it might have been lights out. He just plays with fire, does, in a way. A little bit like Pacquiao used to do too. All offense, not much defense. But I wouldn't go so far as to say he was terrible, but he just got the job done. It must be hard, Big J, for Inoue to get up against these types of guys. I know he's just biding time for the Nakatani fight, maybe the Rodriguez fight, and maybe the Nick Ball fight. I get that. But you can only do so much. And I appreciate him for what he's doing, and that's fighting regularly. And but as far as Canelo goes, yeah, it was just the worst performance I've ever seen by Canelo in, 60, nearly 70 fights. I'm with you, though. I still slightly maybe pick Canelo, even though I did say, look, based on yesterday, Crawford's a massive chance to win. But the fact he is a smaller guy and has been inactive, you'd still have to slightly give it to Canelo. But I'm not doing it with any confidence whatsoever, Big J, I can tell you. Asbot should read, happy for Rolly to get a win. He boxed well. He really did, Asbot. Hats off to Rolly Ramiro. I didn't think he had it in him, Asbot. I thought he was more of a character rather than a real fighter, and he boxed really, really well. Really good game plan. Making Ryan Garcia punch first and then countering him because he knew he was open for the counter shots, and I think he couldn't believe how easy Ryan Garcia made it for him by just not wanting to fight. Stood at a distance, copped his licks, got put down, didn't even try and change anything, just went back to his corner. Derek James didn't do a great job in the corner either by letting him go through. I would have liked to have seen him get into him, really get stuck into him verbally and say, Ryan, wake up. What are you doing? Nothing. Here's a drink of water, Ryan. Okay, you're doing this and you're doing that. The great trainers get their fighters up, and I just would have thought that, yeah, Ryan Garcia needed a rocket on Saturday morning, and it just wasn't coming. The great fighters don't need that, by the way. They do it themselves, but Ryan Garcia wasn't doing it, so I would have thought that Derry James would at least give him a rocket at some stage, and it just wasn't coming. So, yeah, it was a shame. Now, Ryan Garcia, his fight with Devin Haney, for the meantime, looks like it's off, and Rolly Ramiro is going to happily take that gig and the payday. All right, there's Eminem. How are you there, mate? Trevor Taylor. How are you, Trevor? Very impressive performance by Inoue today. Your assessment, really enjoying walking boxing every day. Now, thanks, Trevor. I really appreciate that, mate. Impressive performance by Inoue. It was good enough to get the job done, Trevor. As I just said, I just think it must be really hard to get up time and time again against these guys they're throwing him in with. And it's a credit to him to be able to keep his belts for so long. What's it, 3 or 4 defenses or whatever he's made now of the undisputed title or something like that anyway. But, yeah, impressive. Yeah, it was good enough. It was good enough, Trevor. It wasn't one of his best, but when he got him hurt, he got him out of there. So when he had him going, he did what a good champion does and really put the foot down and responded really, really well with the knockdown and just picked it up and did probably what Canelo should have done. Pick the pace up and get this guy out of there. Go home, get the pats on the back. Don't just waltz through 12 rounds and put everyone to sleep. One good thing about Inoue, he always comes to fight and you always get your money's worth. And I never thought, I would say that about Canelo, that you wouldn't get your money's worth. But yesterday, I'm still trying to get my head around that performance. It was a shocker. All right, Eminem, what do you got there, mate? If the Pacquiao-Barrios fight happens and gets announced soon, what happens with the Pac-Man's Hall of Fame induction? Good question, Eminem. I think it still goes ahead. I'm pretty sure... Who was it that someone was inducted into the Hall of Fame and then fought not long after that? And I can't remember who it was. Was it Tyson? Well, it would have to be Tyson because he obviously fought in a real fight, if you can call a real fight, at the end of last year. I'm not sure, mate. Maybe, well, what is it? It's only a month away. If the fight does get announced, will they put the induction on hold? Wouldn't have thought so. Geez, a lot of Filipinos, and that'd be pretty pissed. They've spent money to book flights and accommodation over. Not sure, Eminem. Very, very good question. I've actually got the email of Ed Brophy, who runs the Hall of Fame. Maybe I should send him an email and ask him what happens to see if he replies. What you got there, Big J? Also had a chat with the chump on my channel, Aussie Boxing Talk. Yeah, give Big J a follow out there, guys. Aussie Boxing Talk. I did see a little bit of that, Big J, and always up for a chat, isn't he? The chump. That's Jay McAllister, doing really good things too. So again, jump on and give old mate Big J a follow there. Aussie Boxing Talk. What's that one? If anyone could go give it a watch, it would be much appreciated. Yep, do it, guys. It's good to see you expanding the channel there, Big J, bringing in guests. I'm still awaiting my invitation, but anyway, good to see Jay got one. All good, mate. All right, Eminem, Emiliano Vargas, and the Japanese kid Nakano today looked the goods, future potential stars. I didn't see Nakano, Eminem, but I saw Emiliano Vargas. I didn't watch the card live. I watched it later. I watched the highlights. Well, this one, they pretty much showed the whole fight in the highlights, but he's an impressive kid, isn't he, Emiliano Vargas? I'm not getting too excited with him just yet, though, Eminem, because let's face it, he hasn't fought anybody yet. So, but geez, very well balanced, super quick. He can punch. Really, really talented guy is Vargas. I'll check out Nakano, mate. I'll see if I can find the highlights of that fight today on YouTube. I'll give it a watch. But Vargas, yeah, very impressive young guy. Very good stock too, obviously, for the son of Fernando Vargas. All right, Eminem, what a stinky weekend of boxing. I like that term, Eminem. Today's card was the somewhat saviour. The turkey effect isn't good, as you spoke about this morning. Yeah, well, as I said, mate, I had a few people say and even comment on the YouTube channel today, the video of my little rant this morning, and saying, well, but, you know, in a way sort of saved the weekend. Well, I know he did, but it wasn't a Riyadh season card, even though he's an ambassador. He's got Riyadh on his trunks, and that's great. But this was a top-rank event in the Mecca of boxing, Las Vegas, where it should be. Can you imagine today's fight, like on the weekend? It would have been maybe not too bad action-wise being on a Riyadh season card, but to be in Vegas, T-Mobile Arena, the crowd going nuts, that's what boxing is. Now, call me old-fashioned, I don't care, because if preferring yesteryear to what we're getting at the moment makes me old-fashioned, then call me old-fashioned. But give me a fight night at the T-Mobile or MGM Grand or anywhere like that, anywhere over what we're seeing in Riyadh at the moment, even in Times Square, to lock the fans out. I know it's a great gimmick. It's fantastic on paper. In theory, it's a great idea to go to Times Square. If you're looking at the Great Wall of China or the Great Barrier Reef, I don't know, wherever the hell you're going to go next, it's good in theory. But don't forget the fans. And on the weekend, to see thousands of people roll up and be locked out, wouldn't you have thought they would have even just put on like a watch party for them? I'm not sure where they did, but by all accounts, they didn't. Set up an area with the big screens, and they can all go in there and go off and maybe have the cars, drive through there or whatever the hell it was. I don't know. But to lock the fans out for a guy or a firm or company, whatever it is that is saying they're doing this for the fans, you're doing anything but. You locked the fans out. And if it's about the Riyadh season, maybe as a whole, and bringing people to Saudi Arabia, or if it's just his little hobby, whatever, do your Riyadh season, put the fights in places where fans can go, like the T-Mobile or MGM or Wembley Stadium. Put the fights back there. Hey, have your Riyadh season written all over it. I don't care. But put the fight nights back where the fans want them. They want them in big arenas with massive crowd access, crowd participation, all that sort of stuff. Not sterile, quiet, soulless stadiums that are half full, and doesn't matter how good a fight you put on, they're going to fall flat if there's no atmosphere in the stadium. There's just not. And as I said this morning, I can't remember. There's so many cards I've had. I can't remember a card thinking back, wow, what an awesome card that was. There's been some great fights that have been matched, but I don't reckon there's been a fight I can look back at and go, wow, what a fight. Awesome fight. Awesome atmosphere. The closest I can probably think was probably Bivol and Better Beef, but that was more so because looking at it, like the science of it all, two super skilled guys in different ways going at it. That's what impressed me the most. But as a fight, neither one of them was super exciting. Neither was Fury and Usyk. So, I don't know. Don't know. But it was stinky, Eminem. I'm with you. Yep, the monster rolls on. 11 consecutive KOs. He is, mate. He's a beast, isn't he? All right, Tony, that was $90 that should have been spent on something better. Yeah, well, it was $60, I think, on the zone. But, geez, I tell you what, oh, my God. It was just, as they say, there's a really good football channel that I follow. Dan Does Footy, and I'm sure a lot of you guys out there might follow it as well. It's a really good, funny way of looking at football. And he goes on about St Kilda, the footy team. When you watch them, it's like putting chopsticks in your eyes. And that's what it felt like over the weekend. It almost felt like it was chopsticks time, if that makes sense. Put them in the eyes so you can't see the garbage that was put out on the weekend. It was not good. All right, Naz. Another good win by El General Vargas today. He might be one of the best prospects in boxing, and his dad was a beast. Certainly was, mate. And he's a good young kid too. Really good young kid. I've met him before. Very, very polite. He's a gentleman, but gets in there and fights like his dad, who was a beast, like you said there, Naz. All right, Mutsy. I think Inouye's max weight is 122. He's been sat on his ass the last two fights. What a fight today, though. A breath of fresh air compared to the rest of the weekend. Cardenas was tough and brave. Yeah, he was, Mutsy. And, geez, I'll tell you what, that left hook was a killer, wasn't it? It was just that whipping, snapping left hook that he had that caused, in a way, all sorts of dramas. I've got to agree, Mutsy. I'm with you. I think 122 is his weight. I think as he starts going up to like 126, and they're even talking about maybe 130, I don't know. I mean, I've said before, why not stay at 122? There's not that. I mean, Nick Ball's, I suppose, a good fight. I was at Espinoza, had a good win today as well. But they're not really big names in in boxing at the moment. Maybe in England, the Nick Ball fight might be worth going for, though it would probably be in Japan or Saudi, of course. But 122, when you've got fights with Nakatani and maybe Rodriguez there, and even our man Sam Goodman might be in the mix. I don't know. And MJ, of course, who he's going to fight. The best fights for him are at 122 or even 118. So I'm not sure why you want to just keep going up at least until they're out of the picture. Once he's gotten past all those guys, which still might be maybe 18 months to 2 years away, stay there for as long as you can. Get those big fights, and then maybe when you've got nothing left, maybe then go to 126. But I'm with you there, mate. I don't see the need to go to 126 at the moment. G'day, Carl. How you going there, mate? All hail King Rolly Romero. Thank the good Lord he saved boxing. It's a bad weekend when he outshines everyone. Well, he outshined everyone, Carl, but again, what was it? I'm just going to pull it up here. I'm hoping I've still got it on there it is here. I'm just going to give you some stats here. Now, on the CompuBox stats. Now, over the weekend, 3 fights, I think it was 3 of the weekend's fights, made the top 6 or top 5 or top 6 of the all-time least punches thrown fights, if that makes sense. So Canelo and Skull ended up being number 1 for 445 combined punches. 152 to Canelo, 293 for Skull. So when you look at it, Skull threw almost twice the amount of punches as Canelo, and we're bagging him out. Who was the other one? Garcia and Romero is now number 4. 490 combined punches, 210 for Garcia, 280 for Romero. So Romero actually threw less punches than Skull as well and won the fight. And then the other one, I think, was the Haney and Ramirez fight, who I think is now number 6. So 3 fights out of the weekend are now in the top 6 of the least amount of punches ever thrown in a fight in the 40 years they've been doing CompuBox. So, hey, all hail King Rolly Ramiro for getting the win, but I'm certainly not patting him on the back, mate, for saving boxing, I can tell you, when he threw 290 punches in 12 rounds. So what's that, about 25 punches a round? So still not enough. But anyway, glad you made your weekend, mate. Bacon and eggs. G'day to you too, mate. I think we've got Tazzy coming in there, guys. So we'll just park it for a minute and we'll get him on in a sec. I can see him in the green room there. All right, we'll get Tazzy on, guys, and then we'll go back to our chat. All right. There he is, Grant Tazzy Brown. How are you, mate? Oh, hang on. You're on mute, I think, there, mate. Hang on. What do we got there? Maybe I've muted you. You've muted yourself, mate. Can you unmute yourself? Hang on. Yeah, mate. Just go out and come back in, can you? I think you've muted. Hang on. It says you've muted yourself. Don't know what you've done there. Go back out and come back in, mate. We'll wait here for you. All right, so there he is. So we've got a blank screen. We'll wait for Tazzy. I don't know what it is with these live things we always do. Let's see if he comes back on and we'll have a chat. All right, we'll just wait for him here. I don't know. No, is he going to come back on? All right, let's see how we go. We got you there, mate.
Yeah, you hear me?
Yeah, mate. All good. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Lyndon. It's good to be back to where it all began with you, brother.
Yeah, I was just said to everyone earlier, mate, that you started on this channel. Now you've gone on to bigger and better things, mate. But I think the question on everyone's mind, how the hell did you become Terence Bud Crawford's best mate, and how did you land him in Australia?
Yeah, well, look, I was at the WC convention in Hamburg, Germany, in early December, late last year, and we all, everyone was at the same hotel, like, your man, what's his name, Vinny Pazienza,
Paz, yep.
and Roberto Duran, Lennox Lewis, like the who's who. Anyway, and Bud was staying there as well, and we just hit it off, We just started hanging out, exchanged numbers, started going into the city of Hamburg, shopping, and wasn't much to do really in Hamburg. So we were just hanging out pretty much every day, lunch, dinner, and then when like Terence is great at doing photos and everything, but when we're having lunch, people are sort of hovering or sort of said, look, guys, let him eat his lunch. He'll get to you if you be patient. So he's like, oh, you're like my security. So I was sort of like his security. And I reminded him of a guy he grew up with called Grover Wiley. If you check him on BoxRec, he's the last man to beat Julio Cesar Chavez.
Okay.
Obviously, Chavez was old and retired in the corner, I think, with a broken hand or something. So, but Grover Wiley is a white guy that grew up in Omaha, Nebraska with Terence, and he actually rang him while he was with me. He said, I met a guy just like you from Australia, a bit crazy, a bit doesn't give a shit, and is a bit sort of full on. So, yeah, we just clicked. We kept in touch. We FaceTimed and we hooked up again in Saudi at the Bivol Better BF2, where he was there to watch the Kerr Stevenson. And then, yeah, we talked about coming to Australia, and he said, look, given my dates with the Canelo announcement, I knew for a lot of people, and then we worked it out. He got back to me and said, the only date I can do was the 26th of May to the 31st, and bang, Bob's your uncle, he's coming.
That's awesome, mate. Well, I want to get to that, all the details soon, but while we've got you, I want to get your thoughts on the weekend of boxing. We've just been talking about it on here at the moment. Now, I was pretty vocal this morning on my little rant on this channel. Mate, have you ever seen a worse weekend of boxing?
So before it, I said, could be the biggest weekend ever in boxing. Before, like, you had the show in New York with Devin Haney, Ramirez, Teo, Barboza, Garcia, and Rowley. Then you had Canelo the next day, and then the monster. In a way, I'm thinking, where has there been 3 shows with all these big names before? Then I turned on the TV and was very disappointed. I mean, look, Tio boxed well. We know he's got all the gifts in the world. He's got to be up for a big fight. Probably, look, he done what he had to do. He probably could have stopped Barboza. He was good out of all the three, the best of the three, but wasn't overly amazing. Devin Haney, who I love as a friend, but I mean, I know it was his first fight after all the knockdowns, a year out of the ring, but he was literally just doing laps. Like when he stood when he sort of let his hands go, he caught Ramirez with everything. But I mean, he needed to do a lot more of that, and it was a bit of a snooze fest, to be honest with you. Like for the money these guys are getting paid, like De La Hoya said today, you know, they're putting people to sleep. So as much as I love Devin, he's a lot better than that. His fight against Lomachenko was amazing. But I know first taking into consideration first fight back, but it was definitely not that wouldn't send any messages to anyone at the division to say, be worried about this guy. It just wasn't and his opponent didn't do anything as well to cut him off. Garcia, we all expect more from. I didn't really rate Riley at all. I still actually don't. Like, I never really thought he was a serious fighter. I actually thought he was a bit of a joke before the other day. He got stopped by almost knocked out by that 80-year-old
the
guy
grandfather, yeah,
and stopped by Pitbull. But look, he did. He dropped Ryan. Is it Riley being that good or Ryan being overrated? I mean, how much did the steroids play? Is he a bit overhyped? Did he have an off night? Did all the fact that there was no atmosphere and cooling down in the Batmobile for an hour to get there, and I don't know. But then we go to Canelo, who we all expect more from. He's the biggest name out of them all. He knew he was fighting a Cuban runner. He picked him. I heard he got $80 million US. He done nothing to make the guy slow down. He threw no punches, threw no jab. It's up to you to make the guy slow down. And he didn't. He just literally walked up and got paid. I mean, I think it says more about Canelo than it does about the Cuban guy. Very disappointing in that weekend. Disappointing with with Canelo massively. And thank God, in a way, showed a bit of heart today and a bit of balls to get up off the canvas and knock his opponent out. And I'm a boxing guy that loves the art. I'm a pugilist guy. I'm a Pernell Whitaker, Willie Pep sort of guy. So I'm not into brawlers or knockouts, but at least show something when you're in there and these numbers getting so low of punch outputs. Another thing I agree with Jeff Fennick on, the old fighters used to fight 15 rounds and go at a torrid pace. And they used to run, do their road work, their boxing, sparring, and heavy bag. Now all these guys are doing strength conditioning and getting all these muscles, and they can't throw punches for 10 to 12 rounds. They get tired, including Canelo. So anyone that says boxing's evolved needs their head read. It hasn't. Boxing's simple. You do your road work. You do your sparring. You do work on your techniques. You do your bit of pads, and you chop wood for your strength and chin-ups and push-ups. All these strength conditioning and all this crazy shit. Fighters are getting tired, and they're not even fighting the distance of the great Chavez and the Archie Moore and Henry Armstrong that used to pound you for 15 rounds. So I think it says a lot about today's fighters. I think it says a lot about the money they're getting paid too much. I'm seeing guys that aren't in the top 10 driving Lamborghinis like Emilio Vargas, who I love. But he obviously they're getting too much money and they haven't even won a title. I just think it's not good for the game. I think it was a poor weekend, and thank God for some of these fighters like Inouye, and guys like my guy Terence Crawford, that always comes to fight. And he's not going to run against Canelo. He's going to put it on him, trust me.
Well, I was just going to say, you said today you actually spoke to Bud today. What was his thoughts about the weekend? He obviously was in New York, then he went to Saudi. So, what was his thoughts firstly on the weekend, and also what did he think of Canelo's performance?
Spoke to him 12 minutes before I spoke to you, Lyndon. I said, "Are you tired or anything from the travel?" And he said, "No, like he loved it."
Well, he's probably travelling
As for
first class.
Canelo,
That helps.
as for Canelo, he didn't say too much. I just said, "Look, I'm not just saying it because I'm your friend, Bud, but I think you beat him and you beat him convincingly. You schooled him." He said, I got to. So I just said, look, he doesn't throw jabs, he hasn't got the punch output. You'll be coming in and out with your attacks. I said, I really believe you can beat him. So he does too. He didn't sort of put Canelo down or anything like that, but he believes in himself 1,000,000%. So I really believe he's going to get the job done.
Yeah, well, Jizzy, you would have had to have been confident, well, more confident after that. But what got me was when they did the face-off, that the size difference to me wasn't there. We all expected Canelo to be. I know he was. Crawford's probably obviously, or Bud's probably a little bit heavier than what he normally would be, but he can't be too much off 168. You'd think, and the size difference there wasn't as pronounced as I thought it would be.
Yeah, well, Terence is obviously taller than him, and you got to remember Canelo's not a massive guy. Hence why he want to fight Benavidez, because Benavidez is big, strong, and will come to fight. So that's why this part of his career, I'm not bagging Canelo because he's been a legend, he's fought everyone, but if he's still boxing, you're going to be expected to fight certain guys, and they have ducked Benavidez. So, yeah, Terence is not that much smaller, and Terence is a strong guy. Terence used to be in wrestling, proper wrestling in America. He tries to wrestle guys all the time. So in clinches, Canelo's going to be surprised at Terence's strength inside. Trust me on that one.
All right, well let's talk a little bit about Bud coming to Australia then. So he's coming on the 26th. So let everyone know what his schedule is going to be, and more importantly the culmination of it all, which is the big gala dinner in Melbourne.
26th and 27th is in the Gold Coast in Brisbane. So Fidel, one of the great guys in the sport, champion bloke, he's hosting him for the 26th and 27th. I think he's got he's at Fidel's gym, I think about 5:30 p.m. on the Gold Coast on the 26th. Then Brisbane, I believe Nick Francis is doing something with him on another champion bloke and great fight manager and promoter. On the 27th in Brisbane, I believe they're doing something in the afternoon, not sure exactly. And then I think he's at Luke Moody's gym in Brisbane in the evening. Then we go to Melbourne. Melbourne is going to be at Team Ellis gym in the afternoon. Late Arvo. Hammer's gym, Mark Castanedi, another legend, in the evening. Then on the Thursday, he'll be at Darcy Ellis's gym. Who's one of the Ellis brothers, and then he'll be at my gala dinner at the Melbourne Pavilion on the 29th at 7:30. Danny Green's going to be there. Anthony Mundine,
awesome.
Billy Dibb, Barry Michaels, Michael Zarafa, Joel Camilleri, and a few other special guests. It's a sit-down dinner where you get to listen to Terence talk about his career, ask questions from the crowd in the Q&A, and at the end of it, there'll be a meet and greet and a photo at the end of the event. You won't be rushed either, guys. You actually get, out of all the visitors to everywhere, this will be the most sort of time you'll get with Bud. Free course meal as well and drinks. So that's at the Pavilion on the 29th, 7:30 p.m. at the in Melbourne. And then we go to Sydney. It's going to be Billy Hussein's Body Punch Gym on the Friday night at, I think, 6 p.m., along with Anthony Mundine, Sonny Bill Williams, Nadal Hussain, Hussie Hussain, your former Olympian teammate, Lyndon, and a lot of other great guests. After that, Terence Crawford is going to play Anthony Mundine one-on-one in basketball.
Oh, wow.
Because Terence is a bit of a machine and Chalk rates himself, so they're going to go at it. Then on the Saturday, his last day in Australia, he'll be at Tony DeVecchio's Bondi Boxing Club gym at I think 10 a.m. or 9:30 or 10 a.m. on the Saturday. So that's on the 29th, on the 31st. Sorry.
All
So
right,
look,
well,
full
cool.
schedule, 6 days in and out, and what an honour to have a guy like Bud Crawford here before he fights the biggest fight of his career against Canelo in Vegas on Netflix on September 12th. You, my Australian friends and public, have a chance to meet him, get up close and personal, get a photo with him, and listen to the story of coming from a young man in Omaha, Nebraska, all the way to the bright lights of Las Vegas to be a 4-division, soon to be 5-division world champion, and the first man when he beats Canelo to be 3 times undisputed in 3 weight divisions. Should I run for Prime Minister? I think I'll do better than dickheads on the weekend.
Well, I think you need to get a little bit more excited about Tazzy. You're a little bit low key tonight, mate. So I'm only joking. Now,
Is this like, is it?
I'll put the link. Forget that first link I put in there. I can't delete it. That was your Facebook post there, but I'll put the link in for tickets. That's trybooking.com. So I think the link is there and it's okay. So if you want to jump on and grab tickets, you can do that. But mate, that is absolutely awesome, and it's fantastic that the likes of Danny Green and Anthony Mundine and in Melbourne, Michael Zarafa and Joel Camilleri and Barry Michael, of course, have all jumped on. That is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, well, Billy did saw him in Saudi yesterday, and Billy's a legend. Ring Magazine, come back of the year after beating cancer and being a 2-time world champion. Billy said, "You're keen to come, bud," and he's like, "I'll see you soon, Australia." So that was great. And guys, again, not very often does Australia have anyone come down. Tyson came years after he retired. So did Ray Leonard. Roy Jones come down years past his best, like when he come to visit. But this guy's in his prime, before the biggest fight of his career against Canelo. If he beats Canelo, guys, I really rarely think he'll come back to Australia, or it costs ridiculous amounts to get him here. I've got him here through my friendship and I think mates rates, but it's still been a lot for me to organise and put on. So I hope Australia appreciates my effort to bring this to Australia. And it's going to be a great 6 days on the road with your one and only Terence Bud Crawford.
Well, mate, we'll let you go in a second, but before you go, I just want to just let everyone quickly know. I know you've done a lot in the last year or two, but just a quick overview. Some of the fighters, I know you've been doing a little bit for Fight Hype and all that as well, and your own channel as well, but your journeys over the last year or two, you've been to Saudi Arabia numerous times. Everyone's seen the interviews you've done. The first questions at, I think, Usyk and Fury, the fights, you did the first question. 1 and 2.
1 and 2. And Bivol Bediev 1.
So give us a quick rundown of what you've done over the last couple of years as far as your trips overseas and what you've been up to.
Yeah, so, look, I got to, it was amazing to sort of started with you originally at Canelo Triple G, but then more so Haney versus Lomachenko. I had full credentials and I sat ringside next to Oscar De La Hoya. Done some great interviews. Then I was over to Saudi for Fury Usyk 1 and 2, where I interviewed Fury, Usyk, De La Hoya, Eddie Hearn, Amir Khan, Kell Brook, Roberto Duran, Lennox Lewis, Antonio Tava, more and more. Then I went to Bediev and Bivol 1 and 2, where I interviewed Bivol and Bediev. Again, pretty much everyone that was there, like Duran again, and everyone pretty much was amazing. Then to Japan for the Monster Inoue, where I was interviewing Inoue. I was hanging out with him. Yeah, I was stuck in his change rooms. And I think I got him to sign probably one too many gloves, because the third day, I got him to sign about 2 gloves a day. And the last time was after his fight, and I interviewed him. Then I was walking out of the arena with him, and I said, I went to pull one of the gloves out of my bag, and he's gone, no more, no more. he, yeah, he had enough. No mas, no mas.
All right. Well, and the other thing too, of course, you've got your podcast on YouTube as well, Ringside Seat with Tazzy. Some of the massive names you got on there. So again, I know a few of you in the chat there are following Big J and a few others. If you're going to follow a page, make sure you check out Tazzy's page, Ringside Seat with Tazzy. Mate, quick rundown of the people you've interviewed on that.
Ray Boom Boom Mancini, Terry Norris, Julian Hawk Jackson, Antonio Tava, James Toney,
Michael Olajide,
Mike Olajide, Robert Garcia, Mikey Garcia, Nadine Donaire, Buddy McGirt, Iceman John Scully, Eddie Hearn. The list goes on. Roy Jones Jr., Danny Green, F. Mundine, Billy Dibb, Tim Zoo, Luke Jackson. Some of the greatest. And I'm going to get Roy Jones Jr., Oscar De La Hoya on very soon, and Virgil Hunter, Andre Ward's great trainer. So it just goes on and on. But for me personally, James Toney, Terry Norris, Julian Jackson, Buddy McGirt, and Antonio Tava had them guys on that I idolised growing up. For me personally, that's just insane.
Nah, it's incredible, mate. And you're doing great things. And I think, probably speak for everyone in the chat, mate, you are a classic example of things just don't happen in this life. You have to go out and make them happen. You got to shake the tree, and mate, you've done it. I was at your first trip. We're over there together for Triple G in Canelo. I was amazed at your tenacity as far as getting the job done, mate. And now look at you. You're pretty much running boxing in this country at the moment.
Yeah, nothing stops me, does it, Linda? I don't like the word no. It doesn't really come into my vocabulary.
And don't get in the way of Tazzy. If he spots something, get out of his way, because he's coming through. He'll steamroll you.
100%. Almost fell to my death trying to meet Naneto Donaire. But now I'm friends with the guy. I can call him any time. So that's the difference. But no, thanks for that, Linda, the kind words. All I can say, guys, that I've given my life to boxing. My grandfather Lenny was a fighter. My father Dennis was a fighter. All my cousins and uncles were fighters. Growing up at the dinner table, it was Joe Lewis, Henry Armstrong, Willie Pep, Benny Leonard, Sandy Sadler, Archie Moore, Rocky Graziano, Ezra Charles, Archie and Jersey Joe Walcott, Muhammad Ali, Ray Robertson. They were the names I heard. Hagler, Leonard, Hearns, Durant. This was my childhood. I was a okay fighter, decent fighter, represent my country, fought professionally, but more so than that, guys, I give my all to Australian boxing. The fact I'm over there representing Australia in Saudi America, bringing fighters like Bud Crawford here, and doing my shows in Tasmania and whatever I do. As I said, I go out and make it happen. I don't wait to someone to hand it to me, because that'll never happen. So go on for the kids out there. Go and chase your dreams, and the sky is the bloody limit.
Yeah, I'm with you, mate, and doing great stuff. So I really appreciate you coming on, mate. You're an inspiration to a lot of the people out there, and you're doing great things. And again, I'll put the link in the chat there, guys. If you want to buy tickets, get on and support the event, because, like Tazzy said, you mightn't. Well, this has probably never happened before, and you might not get another chance to see it. So, mate, all the very best with it, and we'll get you on before the event and see how it's all going.
Thanks. And just before I go, get around the event, guys. Look, in years to come, when you're sitting there and you can say, when he's like talked about in the GOAT conversation with the likes of Floyd Mayweather, Pacquiao, Ali, Henry Armstrong, Ray Robertson, Ray Leonard, you can say, I went to an event, sat and listened to Terence Bud Crawford's career, shook his hand, had a bit of a chat and got a photo with him. And here's the photo. In years to come, guys, you can say that about him. You didn't get to do it with Floyd Mayweather. It'd be very hard to meet Floyd now. But you can say it about Terence Crawford. I'm giving you the opportunity anyway. Take it or leave it, guys. 29th of May at the Pavilion. I hope to see you there.
Good stuff, mate. All the very best, and we'll talk soon.
Good on you, mate. Keep doing a great job, Lyndon.
Thanks, mate. Catch up.
Mate.
The one and only Grant Tazzy Brown. What a character he is. Just doing great things for Aussie boxing. And if you've got it, the money to support the event, go along. It should be fantastic. You can actually buy. Didn't actually ask Tazzy about it then, but you can actually buy individual tickets. You don't have to buy an actual table. So the $500. But you get a 3-course meal. You get all your drinks. You're at an intimate sort of setting. I think there's a limit on the amount of tables they've got. And you're up close and personal with Terence Bud Crawford. Ask him all the questions that you want. Get a photo, all that sort of stuff. And well done, Tazzy, for bringing him to Australia. Fantastic stuff. All right, we're going to try and play catch up a little bit here, guys. We'll race through a few comments and we'll try and catch up to the end there. So keep the comments coming. What did you think of that? I'm sure you'll let me know now. All right, Jules. Question: did boxing need saving? Not sure. Are there lots of people in boxing looking to get paid? Absolutely. Said it a while ago, but Turkey is the front of a Saudi PR machine, and the industry went for it. I'm glad this is starting to come to the surface a bit here, Jules, because I thought today when I had my little rant about this whole Riyadh season thing that I might have a few people say, mate, you're full of shit. You don't know what you're talking about. We love Turkey. I'm glad that, and I'm sure there are some people that do think that, by the way, but I'm glad to see there are some people looking at it a little bit more laterally as well. And you said it yourself there. Did boxing actually need saving? Maybe to some extent it did, but not to the point where, people think that if Turkey Al-Sheikh wasn't involved, that the whole sport would collapse. Because I can guarantee you, people like Oscar De La Hoya and Eddie Hearn and these types of guys would be straight in there and we'd still be getting the big fights. Make no mistake about that. What's that, AP? Another one. When you lay down with dogs, you get up with fleas. Enough of this Saudi blood money. Okay. Carl, I'll never hold Turkey's hand. Well, Bud Crawford did, didn't he? I didn't know what the hell was going on there. I think it was more so Turkey holding Crawford's hand, not the other way around. I think he was pretty much saying, hey, Bud, come with me, mate, and just make sure the crowd shushes, though. Was he saying, everyone be quiet? I've got an announcement to make. Not the sort of thing you want to hear in boxing anyway, to tell the crowd to be quiet. Come on, it's a boxing event. What's this here? Naz. Sean Zittel put out a very interesting video last week giving his opinion on what's happening with Turkey and his agenda. Really worth a watch. Okay, Naz, I'll look that up there, mate. It's really surprising that this is now all coming to light. There's some other people out there with some reservations about what's happening with the Riyadh season. Bacon and Eggs, Cambosis will get the win for my 50th. So when is it? June the 14th. Going to be a big month, isn't it? Or a couple of months for Aussie boxing. All right, Carl Jane, in a way, can take some good body hits. Yeah, he certainly can, mate. He can take the punishment. I've just got worries that at some stage he gets a little bit careless, that he's going to get hit and maybe not be able to recover. But he's that good at the moment. It's hard to see that happening, isn't it? What's that? Hang on. All right, Tony, come on, boys. Get on to Aussie Boxing Talk. Yep, let's support our YouTubers. And in fact, it's a pretty good channel. Let's get this channel some growth with subs. Now, this is Big J's channel. The only thing I'll say, Big J, mate, you need to invest in a camera, mate. Don't worry about the phone. If you're going to use the phone, just turn it on its side. That's the only suggestion I would make. I know I'm getting a little bit picky, but I've got my little YouTube hat on here at the moment. Just turn it to the side. Just don't have it upright, okay? It's the only suggestion. And then when you get a chance, get yourself a proper camera. But in the meantime, just turn it to landscape, can you? All right. What do we got? OG Lights Out. If I was Tim when Bud comes to Australia, I'd be paying him whatever he wants for a few sparring sessions. Good call, OG. Well, it doesn't look like Tim's ever going to get the opportunity to fight Bud, although Bud did say he was that close to fighting Tim last year, and Tim went the Murtazalioff and Fundora route instead of his direction, and it just didn't happen. But, mate, it's a very, very good call. Although I think Bud's only just starting his training camp, or will just be starting his training camp just after he gets home, where by then you would think that Tim's going to be well and truly into his prep. So might be good, might be great for Tim, but I don't think it'd be great for Terence Crawford to come up against a Tim Tszyu that's in full training and Bud's been out of action for about 8 or 9 months. All right, Jules. Big news for Hooney stepping in to fight Wardley. Wardley not a superstar, but the jump from who Justice has been fighting recently to Wardley is big. Good fight if Justice can cope with the travel. I'm with you there, Jules. Fantastic. I'm a little bit dirty, though, I've got to say. I spoke with Mick Francis late last week, and he never mentioned this. So, Mick, if you're watching, mate, next time, spill the beans. Give me an exclusive. I know I can't, obviously, but it's massive news for Justice Honey. I did see the day before that I think Michael Hunter and Philip Hergovich were in the mix as well, but obviously they've gone with Justice Honey. Massive opportunity for Justice, and I think he can get the job done. I really do. Wardley's a good fighter, but I think Honey's an excellent fighter, and I think he can beat Wardley. What's that, Naz? Great win by Mitch Leake over the weekend. He's now a world youth champion. Yeah, I didn't see that, Naz. Carl, Money Canelo is the new Money Mayweather. Yeah, but at least Mayweather, he tried to put on a show. I know he gets accused of running and all the rest of it, but geez, I've never seen anything like that, Carl, especially from a fighter like Canelo Alvarez. For someone that's so big on the traditions and everything of the Mexican culture, for him to fight the way he did, it's a slap in the face to the Barreras and Morales and Zarates and Marquezes of the world, I reckon. All right, we'll keep going through the comments there. All right, Andy, definitely not worth the coin, Lynden, but that's what Turkey's paying, so Canelo getting paid, regardless. Bud has a chance and a lot of eyes now. Yeah, he does. I could just picture yesterday Bud just totally barboozling. Is that the word? Barboozling Canelo, confusing him. I suppose that's a more conventional word, isn't it? But I just, from what I saw yesterday, it's almost like Canelo just got old overnight. In his last fight against Belunga, he still looked like the old Canelo. And I get that School didn't want to engage, but neither did a lot of the other fighters that Canelo's come up against. The Callum Smiths, even the Belungas and these types of guys. And he's just battered them, even to the point where he used to, I think it was Callum Smith, where he was so tall he couldn't get to him, so he kept bowling the right hand into his bicep, and his bicep swelled up to about 3 times the size because of the amount of punches he'd been hit with. And that was just to slow him down. We didn't see any of that yesterday against School. I don't think I even saw him throw more than one punch at a time at any stage during the fight. It was a hook to the head, or it was a hook to the body, or it was a bit of an attempt at an overhand right, and that was it. And I couldn't believe my eyes. After the 3rd or 4th round, I thought, Canelo's just, he started slow. He's just getting a bit of a feel of this guy. But when it was 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever going on, it was just not the Canelo that I grew up just loving. Or grew up. I was already an adult when you get what I'm saying. He's not the Canelo that I've watched over the last 15 years, put it that way. Yeah, Carl, Haney fought like a scared little boy. Well, it's hard to dispute that as well, mate. He just ran for the whole fight. And it's not like Ramirez is that intimidating, is he? I know he's a rough and tough Mexican fighter, former world champion, but surely you could stop and engage at some stage with Ramirez as the fight went on. Stop and plant your feet and have a bit of a crack. Really poor performance. All right, AI. If Canelo doesn't want to fight runners, then fight Benavides. He won't be running. He won't. He'll be right in front of him, won't he? Jules, crazy money, but would be nice to see Saudi money distributed across the industry and not centralised with just the top names. Lots of good fighters without profiles who could use the cash to kick on. I'm with you, mate. I mean, as great a fighter as Canelo is, and he's the face of boxing, a massive name in boxing, he's not worth $400 million over 4 fights. It's as simple as that. The Crawford fight, okay, yep, he deserves to get paid. But that fight with William School yesterday was probably, if he normally gets, I don't know, for a fight in the States, if he normally gets 15 million, we'll maybe give him his 20, not 80. That is ridiculous. The amount of good that he could do with that extra money and still put on the fights. But I know it's significant, and having said that, I can probably understand why the fighters do want to fight for Turkey Al Sheikh, especially someone like Canelo that's at the end of his career. But the amount of good that could happen with that money is just crazy. But anyway, it's his money or the government's money. I think it's the government's money. So he can do with it what he wants to, I suppose. Carl, Murtazalyov called out Keith Thurman, and apparently Keith dropped his phone in the toilet and it doesn't work anymore. He's gone quiet. He's gone very quiet. I don't think, as far as I know, he's had anything to say about Tim's announcement with Fundora. So, we will see. But Murtazalyov did call out Keith Thurman, but I think it's been radio silence from Keith's end there, Carl. What's that there? I'll keep going. A little bit of Big J there. Yeah, Carl, if we get that Canelo, geez, Bud's a good chance. Yeah, exactly, mate. Eminem, Kamakao, next opponent is a 7-0 Tanzanian. Yes, I did see that, Eminem. I don't know. Well, what do you do if you're Kamakao? I mean, he's saying that he wants to take on the best middleweights in the country and maybe use that as a step up to maybe fighting internationally. 7-0 Tanzanian. Well, especially he's not fighting until August. Now, I'd say maybe he might have one more fight by the end of the year. He's in his mid-30s, Kamakao. Time is running out. I'm not sure what his next step is, but geez, if I was him, I'd be getting very cozy with a No Limit or a Tasman Fighters and just looking to get on. I mean, Kamakao, I mean, who knows? Maybe he could get a fight with Ben Mahoney. I know Mick Francis has said that he might want to come to Melbourne and maybe bring either Justice or Jai or one of those guys to Victoria. That wouldn't it make sense to have someone like Kamakao fight a Ben Mahoney, who was a Tasman Fighters fighter? Or better yet, go to No Limit. I'm sure they've got some good fighters there. I don't understand. I said this the other day as well. Why No Limit, who have supposedly got the best interests of Aussie boxing at heart, aren't maybe forking out the money for, say, a Kamakao versus an Isaac Hardman. The fight is there to be made. I think it'd sell really well. I think the attendance in Melbourne would be massive. I think the viewers on TV would be there. Not so sure it's a pay-per-view, unless the pay-per-view was worth $20 or something like that. I suppose they could do $20 or $30. They could easily cover that amount of money for Kamakao versus Isaac Hardman. I don't know why they're not looking at these type of fights to head up the non Tim Tszyu and Nikita Tszyu type of events. So anyway, let's see how we go. But Kamakao, he's a character, and he's probably the best at social media that I've seen of any fighter in Australia anyway. So let's hope he can do a little bit better than the 7-0 Tanzanian. Bacon and eggs. I'll most likely whack 50 on Bud for the win. He's not paying much at the moment on Sportsbet. Yeah, I think he'd be worth a lazy $50 bacon and eggs for sure. Richard, what are your thoughts on Fabio Wardley? Good fighter, Richard. But like a lot of these young fighters, he's not overly young, is he? But a lot of these fighters, he hasn't really fought anybody. I mean, he's had that win over Fraser Clark, who I'm thinking is probably his best known opponent, I gather. It's hard to make anything of him yet, Richard, until he fights someone like a Justice Honey. And I suppose all will be revealed when they fight, is it next month or the month after, whatever it is. Paul Panner, how are you, Paul? Thanks for the comment. Looks like Canelo either didn't train for the fight or got old overnight. I've got a feeling it's a little bit of both, Paul. He did look in okay condition, although I don't think he looked overly defined. And now maybe it was just the lights of the ring, but he looked awfully pale, didn't he? Maybe it's the lights of the T-Mobile Arena makes him look a little darker, but he looked really, really white for some reason. That's got nothing to do with his conditioning, of course. But he didn't look as defined as he normally does, Paul. So maybe he just made weight and went through the motions. But I don't know. Did he get old overnight? The old Canelo, like he did with the likes of Callum Smith, as I said, he would have smashed him. He would have walked him down, banged him to the body, banged him to the head, cut him off, and really got to him. I expected Canelo to really put the foot down and maybe stop School in 9, 10, 11 rounds once he really got his rhythm. He did not alter his pace for the entire fight. 152 punches landed in a 12-round fight. Amazing. And again, I'll say it's something I thought I would never see from a fighter like Canelo Alvarez. It's at AP. Something weird happened on the way to Times Square. Rolly got good. It might have been the ride in the car, AP. I can't remember. It looked like it was an older type of car. But he did look switched on right from the word go. He was there, ready to go, and I never thought he had it in him, AP. I never rated Rolly Ramiro as a fighter at all. Probably going a little bit too far, by the way, to say he's a 3-time world champion, especially when I think a couple of them were interim titles, including this one. So, anyway, good on him. He got the best win of his career, and let's hope he gets that Devin Haney fight. Not sure what happens in that fight, to be honest. I don't think Rolly's like Haney's going to run. Riley, I don't think, is quick enough with his hands or feet to really cut Devin Haney off. It could end up being a 0-0 draw, that fight. Fair dinkum. And the amount of punches both guys threw in that last fight, well, that might actually get us a new record between Haney and Romero. We might break the Canelo and School record for least amount of punches thrown in a fight, I reckon. What's that? Oh, Carl, Bud paying $3.90 on Sportsbet. I like it. Good money. Let's see if it gets a little bit better than that, and I'm on. Or I mean, I should say. All right. Mutsy, Ryan looked like a bloke whose mates were on a Bucks party and he had to stay home to fight. He did look that way, didn't he, Mutsy? I think he said he deprived himself of any substances throughout the training camp, whether it be alcohol or other stuff. And you could tell he wasn't happy about it. Maybe you would have thought he would have been a little bit happy thinking, all I've got to do is get through this fight, though, and then I can go for my life. He didn't look happy in there, did he, Mutsy? He looked like he'd rather be anywhere else except the ring that night. Eminem, Isaac Hardman back in training at Fortitude now. Great news for Boxing. I'm with you there, Eminem. Can't wait to see the head splitter back, and he's in great hands at Fortitude with Luke Melton and Steve Della. So knowing those two gentlemen, they will get him back into peak shape and mentally and physically, and get him on one of those big, probably no limit cards or maybe Tasman cards. Carl, is it just me, or does Riley Romero sound like a dolphin? Oh, sorry, a dolphin whisperer when he lets his hands go. I haven't really noticed that, Carl. I can't get over the squeaky sound of his voice. Apparently, he didn't really talk much until he was 11 or 12 years old, they were saying on the commentary the other day, because of his lisp. But he's a character. I have actually met Riley Romero once, and then he was probably like in person like he is, you see on the screen. Very quirky, very, very odd. He was sort of making fun of me because I was filming. It was at the expo, and he was sort of making fun of me, but I couldn't understand what he was making fun of me about. He was pointing at me, he was pointing at the camera and giggling to himself and to someone else, but I couldn't understand what he was actually saying or what he meant. I got no idea, but what you see on the TV in those interviews is exactly what he's like in real life. But he has got that voice, hasn't he? That he's hard to sort of take seriously, but as a fighter. But geez, he showed it on the weekend that he is a serious fighter, 100%. And speaking of the commentary as well on the weekend, having Mike Tyson there, what was that for? What was the benefit of having Mike Tyson there, who just fumbled and mumbled his way through the whole thing, had absolutely nothing to add to that event? And Jim Lampley, who was probably a little bit rusty as well, took him a little while to get going, but you could tell he was being forced to cross to Mike Tyson, and Mike Tyson just added nothing. It was like, let's just put Mike Tyson into the mix and use him as a special commentator. The problem was he had nothing to actually add. Mike sort of struggles a little bit these days to actually get out probably what he's thinking, and to put him on a big telecast like that, I don't think it was a great idea. Probably is about as idea of having the fighters drive into the ring in cars with complete strangers driving them in. It was odd. Anyway, Mutsy, in a way, flipped the switch in round 6. He was either going to get Cardenas out of there or walk onto one. I love that about him. True warrior. 100% agree there, mate. OG, heard Glenn talking to D-Style today. Nikita is fighting in August now. I was hoping Cairns. Yeah, I did see that, OG. I watched a bit of that interview. And he did say Nikita was going to fight in August. I think he's had a few issues with his hand. It's taken a little bit longer than they thought to recover. So, yeah, I would say he will be... I think there's a no limit on Fox event in August, I think, because July is obviously Tim. Unless they wanted to sort of give each brother a bit of clean air and not fight too close together, maybe. Who knows? Because Nikita will probably want to go over for that fight. Tim would obviously want to be part of Nikita's fight here, so maybe they've just pushed it back to August just to play it safe. But I think by then, it will be a year out of the ring by the time August comes around. What do we got? Did you catch Brayon Leon on the Canelo undercard? He's been a sparring partner for Canelo since the Belunga fight. Geez, he looks good. Trained and managed by Eddie Reynoso too. Yeah, I did see a bit of him, Carl. Yeah, he does look good, but again, let's just wait and see how he goes, with some better opposition. Monk, in a way, has always said he wants to be an entertainer. I'm glad he takes a risk. Compare that to the rubbish from Friday and Saturday. Yep. Well, sometimes it works against you though, Monk, because you want to be an entertainer, and it opens you up to punches from good fighters who can hit, and maybe it doesn't end well. But yeah, I'd much prefer, no matter what it is, in a way over Canelo and Haney and Garcia and everyone on the weekend. It was an absolute shocker. When is the Cairns card getting announced? I think the Tim fight is being officially announced next week, Carl. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's maybe the week after that. I would say, mate, still plenty of time. Better fights at the kebab shop. I get it. I've seen my daughters have better stinks. Yeah. Who is going to fight Bakram? Good question, Cal. Well, look, when you can't get the number one rated challenger to fight you, you've got some issues, and that is Erickson Lubin. He's the number one challenger for the IBF belt, and he doesn't want to fight Bakram. He's got another fight planned. So I don't know, Cal. Well, someone mentioned Thurman. Thurman doesn't like he's too keen. Don't know, mate. I don't know. It's got to be someone. You would think that Bolchuk or one of those types of guys would step up. Those types of guys don't really care who they fight, do they? So I know Ortiz has been mentioned, but he's had a couple of tough fights in a row, so he's entitled to maybe a softer fight next, maybe a voluntary. But yeah, why not Bolchuk? Let's have just a quick look on the rankings there. I know I'm way behind, guys. I'm going to rush through as fast as we can. But so at 154, it's middleweight. Sorry, I thought he'd been. Yeah, Erickson Lubin is the top ranked contender. Xander Zayas is next. The next one is Callum Walsh. There you go. So I don't really know anything about Callum Walsh or Undreal Holmes after him. So who knows, mate? But someone will step up. Someone will. Yeah, bacon eggs, no more Batmobiles. Drew, Times Square was more like a narcissistic exercise for Turkey to impress celebrities and his millionaire mates. Well, that's what it seemed like, Drew. It was almost like his own sort of personal watch party, wasn't it? I'll just sort of rent out a portion of Times Square and shut it down and put on a fight night for my mates. That's what it seemed like. And look, again, it's great in theory. It's great to think outside the square, all that sort of stuff. But when it's at the detriment to the sport and to the fans, I don't like it. And you would think the Alcatraz event, if that does happen, is going to be exactly the same. It's going to be a TV event with all his mates in attendance. So how about Turkey Al Sheikh? How about you put a fight night on for your other mates? You know, the millions and millions of fans around the world that want to see big fights in big stadiums in front of big crowds. That's what we want to see. Enough of this crap. Good in theory, but let's get back to the stadiums. They had Barclays Centre down the road. It would have been a fantastic place to put it, and it mightn't have stunk out the joint as much as this show did. Eminem, I thought Piccoli was beaten by a Jugby. Yeah, well, what was it, a draw? Well, I thought for the first, maybe 5-6 rounds, I thought a Jugby pretty much dominated Eminem, and Piccoli come home hard, but the draw it was. So I forgot that Ajagby was the one that beat Joseph Goodall. I knew he looked familiar, and I knew the name sounded familiar, and I forgot that he was the one that beat Joseph Goodall, I think, last year. So, but I'm with you there, mate. I thought Ajagby won that fight. All right, we have a super chat from Dennis Green. How are you there, mate? $5. Thank you very much. Unable to comment on anything boxing because I'm still speechless after Saturday's vote, but cheers to all. We're not getting into politics, mate. Yes, we're not going to get into politics. I did vote. I think, luckily, I voted. I think it was on like Wednesday last week. I didn't want to go through all the bullshit of voting on the Saturday, but you get what you vote for, and let's hope the people that voted for Albanese knows what they're doing. Put it that way. Anyway, all right, we'll move on. We're not talking politics, Dennis. It gets us in all sorts of trouble. All right, AP, that whole Times Square debacle is what you get when rich guys try to reinvent the wheel. Couldn't agree more, AP. Bacon and eggs, I nodded off in the Haney fight, turned it off after the first round of the Ryan Rowley fight and went back to bed for a few hours. True story. Yeah, I don't blame you, mate. I watched it because what time did it start? Was it about 8 o'clock, I think, in the morning it started? Oh, that's when I went for my walk when they had the first prelim fight on. I came back. I think I got home about in the second round of the Lopez and Barboza fight. And like you, I was like, oh, well, it's one down. Okay, the Lopez and Barboza fight could have went either way. It was either going to be exciting or it was going to be dull. I thought, oh, well, it's dull. Big deal. There's 2 more fights to come. And we've got Haney involved, who could be a snooze fest, but Ramirez likes to come and fight, so he'll at least make it interesting. Then I thought, oh, well, Ramiro and Garcia, that's got to be an entertaining fight. Negative on all fronts. All right, Carl. Jim Lampley back commentating boxing was a highlight of that Times Square card. Jeez, I love his commentary. He's awesome, Carl. He's awesome. Unfortunately, just getting a little bit old in the tooth, a little bit like Michael Buffer in the ring. Does maybe miss a couple of things, hasn't got the same, oomph about him, and maybe he does muck it up a little bit, does Michael Buffer, but it's going to be a sad day when he goes and also Jim Lampley goes for good too, Carl, because it was a breath of fresh air, mate. Polly the Farmer, I think when Inoue faces stiffer opposition, he looks to counter rather than go headhunting. I've heard him say he would rather entertain, but he acknowledges that as he ages, he may need to adapt. Yeah, good call, Polly. All right, Richard, apart from Tim Zhu, who could be the next future money ticket in Oz boxing? Good question, Richard. The next was a future money ticket in Oz boxing. It's a good question, a really good question. I don't really think there's anyone I can look at now and go, wow. I mean, we've already got the established guys like Jai and George Cambosis and Liam Paro and these types of guys, the up-and-comers. Don't know. I'll tell you what, young Cooper O'Connell looked pretty good in his pro debut, youth world champion. He's probably one I would say keep an eye on, Richard, is Cooper O'Connell. He's only 18 years of age, but keep an eye on him because I think he could be a very, very good fighter down the track, a little superstar. Jai Patai would be huge if only the pricks will fight him. Yeah. Well, Badu Jack had a pretty good win yesterday. He actually didn't look too bad, but not good enough to beat Jai Patai, Carl. I think Jai actually probably stops Badu Jack, but he did look okay yesterday. All right, Naz, apparently 60,000 tickets already sold for Usyk Dubois. Wish we got around our fighters like the Poms do. I couldn't have said it better, Naz. 60,000 tickets sold. That's at Wembley, isn't it? So they'll get the 90,000 there. They just love the boxing over there, don't they, Naz? And the problem is here, unless it's an absolutely mega event like a Tim Zhu fight or when George fought Haney and Lomachenko, it's not really any fights that go close to getting that type of crowd. I mean, even Jai, unfortunately, only was there about 5,000 tickets to his last fight sold. So I'm with you, mate. It is a shame, but unfortunately, I was just going to say here in Australia, there's so many sports that people follow. England's probably not any different, although over there it's pretty much just soccer and boxing, isn't it? So darts, I think that's about it. Over here, there's the rugby and the AFL and everything over here. So anyway, Drew, I really wish we had have seen Haney Garcia on the weekend before the so-called main course got burnt. Not the first time Turkey has burned a big event trying to marinate AJ and Wilder. Yeah, another good comment there, Drew. They tried to build it up, didn't they? And it's blowing up in their face. They should have just put the fight on and just be done with it. And now it's not, even if Haney, if Haney beats Ramiro and Garcia maybe gets a win under his belt, in my opinion, the fight still has lost a bit of its luster. We'll see. Yeah, but imagine the Espinoza ball matchup, 6-1 versus 5-2 featherweights. It did look odd, didn't it? With Espinoza today, but yeah, 6-1 versus 5-2. Yep. Frankie D, those Riyadh cards remind me of the footy games played in front of no crowd during that COVID crap. Yeah, Frankie, and in the bubble in Vegas with those fights at the MGM, where was it? The ballroom or something they had there. Yeah, why fight in front of no crowd if you don't have to, Frankie? I just don't get it, mate. They had a couple of hundred people there, and you could tell. You could hear the taxis and all that honking out and the traffic honking out there, and just not good. Great in theory, but it just fell a bit flat if you ask me. I gave him $1. Ramiro has an interesting story, and he looks a loose cannon to me, which can be entertaining. Well, you got to give him credit, $1, because he was on the scrap heap. Isaac Cruz battered him from pillar to post. He didn't look good in his last fight either last year, but he's risen from the ashes and beat probably what a lot of people call him the next face of boxing after Canelo was gone in Ryan Garcia. So got to give him his credit there, $1, because he fought very, very well on the weekend. AI, what did you make of the WBC Cruiser fight? Badu Jack looked decent for a 41-year-old. Surely they're trying to make the unification with Jai now. Well, they might, AI, because you think that if Zerto fights, well, he's got this voluntary coming up, but if he does decide to maybe fight Benavides next, maybe Jai and Badu Jack could be the next one. You never know. So look out, we've got a super chat. It is from D Style. How are you there, mate? Watched your interview with Glenn Jennings this morning, mate. Very, very good interview. And I'm sure you're like me, mate. You appreciate when Glenn gives his time. I think he gave you over an hour today, which is fantastic to talk all things Australian boxing and Tim Zoo and everything else. So if you didn't see that, guys, make sure you subscribe to D Style and check out his interview this morning with Glenn Jennings. I'll go through a few more comments there. What have we got? Still got about 30 minutes, so we're doing pretty well. I'm getting there. Keep hearing, says Naz. People say how quiet Ryan was in the build-up. Rolly was way more subdued than he usually is as well. Yeah, I did notice that as well, Naz. I think I might have commented about that last week in that when they had the little tit for tats when Teofimo Lopez was talking about beating his own ass. Ryan Garcia sat there quiet. Rolly Ramiro didn't say a lot either, which is very unlike Ryan. Maybe, look, who knows? Maybe they're the type of fighters that feed off each other. Maybe the fact that Rolly was quiet and switched on, obviously, and focused. Ryan didn't really have anything to really use as a bit of ammunition. And because Ryan didn't say anything either, Ramiro just stayed quiet and we just got a 0-0 draw until the fight started. Then it was another 0-0 draw, wasn't it? Yeah, Carl, yeah, Canelo threw half of what Rolly did. Yeah, 152 punches. I think I said this morning it was 4 punches a minute it worked out to. 4 punches a minute. 1 punch every 15 seconds. That's all he was throwing. Just hang on, no, I got that wrong. 4 punches a minute. Yeah, that works out. 1 punch every 15 seconds on average. That's a hell of a long time between punches. All right, random stuff. What do you got there, mate? I think it's more than the punches had no real intent. That Canelo fight seemed less intense than sparring. It did, well, it did. Like, the lack of intent was there, but I don't remember him throwing more than 1 punch at a time random. He was just 1 punch to the head. He'd lead with a hook, and the crowd would go, ooh, you know, and he'd wait another 15 seconds, and then boom, he'd go to the body, and the crowd would go, ooh. And that was it. And in the meantime, William School's having the time of his life, dancing around, just thinking of all the money he's made for pretty much doing nothing and going 12 rounds with Canelo Alvarez. I just can't get my head around either that. Who was the last opponent that really tried to beat Canelo Alvarez? I'm going to have a quick look at his record here because I can't remember the last one. Hang on, I'm going to go back to the fighter that really tried to have a crack at Saul Canelo Alvarez. All right, so we had School, we've had Belunga, we've had Munguia. Yes, okay, well, we don't have to go back that far. I thought Munguia actually had a crack at Canelo and tried to win the fight. I thought he actually fought pretty well. But Charlo before that didn't try and win. Ryder, I don't think, tried to win. I hate to say it, Triple G even tried to win. Bivol tried to win and did a good job of it, and maybe Plant before that. So out of his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fights, he's 6 wins in a row since the Bivol fight. In my opinion, only Munguia has actually turned up and tried to win. So, and I don't think he's actually had a stoppage since Plant, which was back in 2021. Crazy. Yeah, Naz, Max McIntyre might be good as an Aussie up-and-comer. Yeah, the jury's still out for me, Naz. Long, long way to go. Andy, I spent weekend fishing and caught replays later. Don't feel so bad. I didn't catch live. TO won better than I expected. Devon won off his bike and King Rowley saved boxing. School was like Dev 1-6 at 168. Oh, it was a hard watch, mate. It was hard. All right, Naz, Zapata outthrows Haney, Ramirez, Canelo, and School combined over 12 rounds. Yep, that's a good way to look at it, Naz. Now, someone like Zapata would probably throw 100 punches a round. I'm thinking on average. That's 1,200 punches in a fight. Now, altogether, Haney, Ramirez, Canelo, and Skull maybe threw about 800 punches between them, or maybe let's just say even 1,000 punches between them for the whole fight. Zepeda throws 1,200 by himself. These guys should be ashamed of themselves for those performances on the weekend. At least Ramirez, he was coming forward. At least he was trying to make the fight. He was just too slow, too much of a plotter to trouble Devon. Canelo, on the other hand, if he really wanted to, I got no doubt he could have put the foot down and finished school. He chose not to. Really poor performance. All right, Andy, Naoa versus Cardenas was a goodie. Cardenas dropped Naoa, made it interesting before Naoa brang it. Cardenas could have kept going maybe to work when Naoa slowed later, but ref waved it off a bit early. I thought it was a bit early too, Andy. He was under the pump. Look, did he make the right call? Yeah, you could probably say he did, but world title fight. I know he'd been dropped, I think, in the round, at the end of the last round. I thought he was under the pump, but I'm not sure he was really hurt or groggy or anything like that. So, look, as I always say, mate, it's better to stop it, a little early than a little late. He wasn't going to win the fight, so. Yeah, for Tazzy. Big J, I've always considered Ryan Garcia overrated. Yeah, well, it's always good in hindsight, I suppose. Drew, starting to wonder whether the turkey money is affecting the way these fighters are fighting. At the end of the day, the fighters control their own destiny. I would have thought the opposite, Drew. You are right about what you're saying there, by the way. And a few people have said this in the last 24 hours, that do you think because they're being paid so much money, they're actually scared to engage for fear of losing? I would hope, especially considering the backlash that Turki Al Sheikh is probably receiving. And he obviously reads social media. He responds to social media. He's active and everything on it. That he would see the backlash from the fans out there. I would have thought that his mindset would be, if you aren't going to perform on these cards, then you're off. Or maybe they start putting in the bonuses like they do with the UFC for the best knockout, best performance, whatever it might be, and go down that route. But I've got a feeling that Turki Al Sheikh, when he sits down and takes in all the negativity about his events over the weekend, that you might see a few of the fighters get a bit of a pump up, and him saying, if you don't want to entertain the fans, then you're gone. We'll see. Nectar of the Gods. I'm seriously thinking Bud has a good chance against Canelo after that BS yesterday. I'm with you, mate. I actually thought before the fight that Crawford had a good chance against Canelo. But after yesterday's fight, mate, I'm tempted to put the money on Crawford, I can tell you. And you heard Tazzy earlier. He's very confident about Crawford beating Canelo. It's going to be a big event. It's going to be massive. What's that, Carl? I love it when Tazzy screams like he's talking on the Bush Telegraph. He has a crack, doesn't he? I'm not sure how much voice he'd have left, but what's that there, Tony? Tazzy Brown seems like he knows boxing and seems well educated in the sweet science. So how the hell did he think Fury beat Usyk? I got a feeling he was just playing a straight bat there, Tony. I think if you asked him with no one around, he might tell you that he thought that fight might have been a little bit different, but he had to. He's pretty chummy with Tyson Fury, and you need to keep your credentials up and have access to these fighters. You don't want to be saying something you shouldn't and going against those that have opened the door for you. So, but I think if you asked Tazzy away from everyone, he'd say that it was actually Usyk that he thought beat Fury. But anyway, all right, what do we got? I'll move through these comments pretty quick. Carl, can you tell Tazzy he doesn't need to scream? He'll have no voice tomorrow at this rate. That's just Tazzy, Carl. If you talk to him just in person, you might just be sitting down having a coffee with him. You get him worked up and get him talking about something he's passionate about. That's just Tazzy Brown. He's not putting on a show there. He's not trying to be anything that he's not. That's just Tazzy Brown. And if anyone out there has met Tazzy or knows Tazzy or spoken to Tazzy, you'll understand where I'm coming from. If you meet him in the street and start talking boxing, that is the Tazzy Brown you get. Shadow Boxer, yeah, who's the guest? That is Grant Tazzy Brown, the one who was bringing, or the man that is bringing Terence Bud Crawford to Australia, mate. Tazzy doesn't hold back. Make sure you got a fishing trip in there for that fisherman Bud. He loves fishing, yeah. Double G, can you? I must be way behind in the comments. Sorry, guys. I'm trying my best to catch up. Can you speak up, Tazzy? Shadow Boxer, anyone want to go 10 ways on the table? Yeah, do it, guys. Talk amongst yourselves. Inbox each other, all that sort of stuff. $500. Maybe we could put together a boxing deep dive table. I don't know. Get everyone to chip in, and if we can get 10 people that want to go, then maybe we'll get a deep dive table together. Let me know. What's that? Shame he's not fighting here. That's Tazzy. Yep. Might hang around out the front, then try and catch Bud on his way out like a weird stalker. Well, I tell you what, you better have a 20 in hand or something there, Shadow Box. You don't want to get past Tazzy with Crawford without paying for the privilege of meeting him, mate. It's cost him a lot of money to get him out here. So go to the gym, or go to better yet, go to the gala dinner. But as I said, if there's 10 people out there that want to buy tickets, I'll probably get a couple. If there's 8 people that want to go, we'll buy a table. We'll get a deep dive table happening. And no, I'm not shouting everyone to go. All right. Crazy interviews on his channel. Yeah, go to his YouTube channel. It's a really good insight. Look, he's got all, as I said before, he's the type of guy that just makes things happen. And as I said as well, don't get in his road. If you're between him and someone important in boxing, don't stand in between it, because you're going to get bowled over. Get out the road, because when he sees something he wants, he's after it. And he's got all those people that on his channel. So like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff to the Ringside Seat with Tazzy podcast. When is a reunion? Tazzy, Mike, and Peter on the show together? Yeah, well, maybe we should do it. Maybe maybe for one of the fight weeks, I'll get them on. Because we've had, obviously, Big J and Jay. We'll have them back as well. We had Anthony Cox and Daniel Smart last week. Maybe we'll do a fight week with Tazzy, Mike, and Peter, and bring the old guys back together again. Tazzy lost his voice. He goes hard, doesn't he? So Tazzy, very knowledgeable off the bat. You see on the trivias versus other boxing historian Mike Altamura. Mate, he knows his stuff. He knows his stuff, as does Mike Altamura. How much are the individual ticks? Yeah, $500, Shadow Boxer. 3-course meal, a table seat, and drinks and all that sort of stuff, and up close and personal with Bud Crawford. The Magic Man, says Bill Hack. Yep. Oscar Everingham. The crowd in Riyadh for the Canelo event was empty. There was no one there. A few Mexicans, and that was it. Carl, if I was near Melbourne, I'd be at that event in a heartbeat. But I think you're in far north Queensland, aren't you? So, but there is an event in Brisbane and on the Gold Coast, I think he said. So you'll be able to go to the gyms, and I think you've still got to pay to go in. I think because they're paying Tazzy obviously to get Bud there, but I think you can pay and go in there and do a meet and greet and get your poster signed or whatever it might be. So Rocco West, so good seeing Noonan Boy in New York. Why don't you speak to him about it? I will. I actually spoke to Noonan Boy. I spoke to him actually a couple of weeks ago. I reckon a couple of times in the same week. I don't push Noonan Boy, Rocco, because he's not the type of guy that really likes to put himself out there. He likes to just be in the background. Does an awesome job with everything that he does, by the way. I think he's the best in the business in social media in Australia. He's behind a few sites that you might not know about, Noonan Boy, and he does an awesome job, but he's not the type of guy that likes to come on and puff his chest out, Noonan Boy. So maybe if I talk to him, I'll see if he'll come on, but I won't push the issue because I know he doesn't really like to talk himself up that much, but we'll see what we can do. What's that, Carl? Feed Grog and a photo of me dropping Bud. Priceless. Wow. I think there might be a few security guys that might have something to say about that, Carl. I'm not sure you'll get out of there in one piece. Anyway, pound for pound king. We wouldn't have the promoters working together if it weren't for Turkey. Fighters would still be using sides of the street excuses. Don't agree, pound for pound. Yeah, okay. There might be a few more issues than what we have now because Turkey just opens a checkbook. But as I said this morning, mate, on the episode, the big fights have still always been made. All the biggest fights in history, bar a few, have all happened. The biggest ones that could possibly be made have all happened. And it might have been a little bit harder to work together and a few more butting of heads and all that sort of stuff and egos. But 99% of the time, mate, the big fights get done. So Yeah, I understand what you're saying there, but I don't really subscribe to that. I think either way, the promoters aren't stupid. They understand, okay, it's about egos and all that bullshit they go on with, and who's got the A side and who's B side and all the rest of it. But end of the day, they're still business people, and I know that money talks. And look at all the dramas that went down with Mayweather and Pacquiao. That fight shouldn't have happened, but you know what? There was way too much money for it not to happen. So guess what? They made it happen. Yeah, it was probably about 5 years too late, but it happened. And I just think, mate, the biggest fights out there will continue to get made because there's still massive money in it. I think we've just got to get away from the whole thing. It's just without Turkey, the sport collapses because it's certainly not the case, especially when you've got the likes of Eddie Hearn and Oscar De La Hoya out there. That's my belief anyway. Minnesota, Mick. Yep, Noonan was there. I did see that. Was in Vegas today too. Now, was he there or was Fight Hype there, Mick? Was he actually there personally, or did he have someone on the ground for him there? Knowing Noonan, he's probably was there, but just let me know because I know they do have people on the ground that sort of seems like he's there, but there's other people there that send back the photos and all that sort of stuff. So, Shadow Boxer, I've got a spare 500. I'd love to be there. Bud's my fave modern fighter. Yep. What's that, Carl? I'm a professional YouTuber now. You'll forget about us in no time. Nah, never going to happen, Carl. Who do we think Nikita is fighting next? Well, your guess is as good as mine, Eminem. He didn't really give up a lot today when he was talking to D-Style. This is Glenn Jennings I'm talking about. He did say that it was getting harder to get Nikita fights. There's a few people that aren't interested. Hey, KO's there. Maybe put him up. I don't think he's the right fit for Nikita, though. He's very, very awkward, Joel. I think Nikita wins the fight, but Nikita wouldn't look good in that fight. So, don't know, mate. There's definitely a few options out there for him, but I suppose all will be revealed in the next few weeks. Rocco, he's your best reporter from Aussie, hands down. You all need to show him more respect. Well, I don't think anyone's not showing him respect, Rocco. As I said, he's the type of guy that likes to sit in the background a little bit, Noonan boy. Yeah, I think he's got a really good team of reporters that actually work for him as well. So, yeah, I don't think he doesn't get respect there, Rocco, because all the sites he's involved with all do very, very well and get a lot of numbers behind them. So, yeah, no, I certainly respect him, that's for sure. Who's next for Paro? Another good question, Eminem. Not sure. Well, he's going to be, July 11th in Cairns. So, I've got a feeling it'll be a little bit like who they brought over for Sam Goodman, I reckon, Eminem. It'll just be someone that's got a half-decent record, but maybe ranked 30 or 40 in the world. That's what I reckon anyway. And that's fine. He's coming off a loss. Get a win under your belt and back in the mix. He's a little bit like George. All Liam's got to do, and probably Tim to some extent as well, all he's got to do is win a comeback fight. Doesn't really matter who it's against. He's just got to get a good win under his belt, and then 100% he will be right back in the mix. It could be the Puello Matias winner. It could be, actually, who's, just looking at the 140-pounders at the moment. So we know Hitchens and Kambosos are going to fight. It could, who knows? It could be Gary Russell. It could be a Teofimo Lopez. They were supposed to fight once in the past, weren't they? It fell over because Liam, I think, got injured from memory. So you never know. But being a former world champion, as Matias is finding out at the moment, all you need is one comeback fight, have a good win, and you are right back in the mix. And Tim Tszyu obviously found that out as well. Be a big name, be a former world champion, win a fight, you come back fight, and you're straight back. What's that? Mick, that Grant guy got his Saudi card through Noonan, I think. Yeah, he did. He was working for Fight Hype. Mick, Tazzy, he was doing work for Noonan Boy and Fight Hype over in Saudi Arabia. Carl says, Rocco, quick little tip about Aussies. We love putting shit on each other. We know Linden's the best from down here, mate. I'm not a reporter, though, Carl, so I don't take that personally. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, best reporter. I'm not a reporter, mate. I don't want to be a reporter. I've said that numerous times in the past. I'm happy to be a YouTube content creator. I like doing these shows. I like doing my trips and my morning stuff, walking Neil. I'm walking boxing, and I'm happy with that. I don't want to be a reporter, mate. There's some very good Aussie reporters out there, and they don't need me in there as well. Mick, thanks, Mick. I appreciate that. Lyndon's good too, but Noonan covers it like no other from your country. I think there's a difference too, though, Mick, with what Noonan does. Now, Noonan's not really a reporter either. He does ask questions and does do some interviews occasionally, but he relies on his other guys to do that. Noonan's more, he's the general. He's the conductor and does a very good job. I've seen him up close and personal a few times, and the way he does it is you've got to see it to understand how it all works. We all just look at social media and go, oh, well, there's a result. There we go. We'll put up a post saying such and such as won, and we might put up a few words, whatever. There's an art to it. I've seen Noonan where literally, I think it was actually at the Tim Tszyu Fundora fight, with his hand on the button. He's got the photos coming in, so he's got the post ready to go. And 2 seconds, well, actually not even 2 seconds, 1 second after the decision announced, bang, he hits send and boom, it's up in about 5 seconds flat. And the timing he gets everyone to give him the pic or the photos coming from ringside, the reports coming in from his guys on the ground. Very, very good at what he does, Mick. And you are right, he is the best in Australia, in my opinion, as well. So, and one of the best out there in boxing journalism. And if you are watching, Noonan boy, I'm going to stop pumping you up now. What's that, Rocco? That guy's so busy. How does he do it? He's in with so many boxing channels. Yep. Carl, I'll give Turkey his props. Without him, we wouldn't have had undisputed at both 175 and heavyweight twice without his deep pockets. Yeah, no, you're right, Carl. Look, the only fight out of all of them that I reckon might not have happened without his involvement is probably Beterbiev and Bivol. I reckon that fight, both being Russians, both not really having big supporter bases, not real. I know was a Bivol was with Matchroom. Not sure. Was Beterbiev with them as well? I'm not sure. But maybe that's the only fight I can look at and go, maybe some of the promoters would have went, yeah, you know what, would have been a great fight, but let's just let it go. Turkey really pushed for the fight. I've got no doubt Usyk and Fury would have happened. They would have just had to have settled for less, Carl. They both wanted the fight. Okay, instead of getting paid $100 million each, maybe they would have got 75 each. They still would have got well paid. The fight would have happened. I don't think maybe necessarily the Canelo-Crawford fight would have happened without him pushing it. But then again, is Crawford and Canelo really one of those fights that if it didn't happen, we'd be saying, oh, geez, I can't believe no one could make that fight happen. I don't think it was even taken seriously until a few months back. Up until then, Terence Crawford said he wanted the Canelo fight. But Canelo initially shrugged it off and said, nah, not interested. And I think we all agreed with him. Well, that's no use. You got a 147 coming up to 154, having one unimpressive fight and then challenging for 168. What hope has he got? So I don't think anyone would have been too stressed if it didn't happen. But Turkey, of course, wanted it to happen and he's made it happen. So I'll still stand by my comments, Carl, that I reckon most of the fights would still have happened. They just wouldn't have had the same money that the guys would have been paid. They would have had to have settled for less and they would have been happy with it because at the time it still would have been much higher than what any other fighter in the world was getting paid at that time. So what's that, Mick? Noonan was with Turkey in New York City. Okay, I didn't see that, Mick. Yeah, Andy, 400 million is crazy dollars. This goes to show how much Saudis have to throw around. Yep, shake my head. I'm with you there, mate. Have you ever seen the Saudis print diamond, or Princess Diamond, encrusted Mercedes Benzes? That's crazy wealth it is. Wouldn't it be a great thing to have, Carl? You can just literally, if you're a boxing fanatic, like obviously Turkey Al Sheikh is, yeah, you can just put on any event that you want and whatever it costs. It doesn't matter. It's not my money. Just there you go. Let's go. Furyan Survivor. Does Honey's chin concern you against a heavy-handed guy like Wardley? I'm very concerned. Yes, to some extent they're Furyan Survivor, but on the other hand, I think Wardley would be worried about the hand and foot speed of Justice Honey and his volume of punches that he throws. I mean, Wardley, like any big puncher, anyone's going to be concerned about that, isn't he? I mean, Honey, just like every heavyweight fighter fighting Wardley, he's got to be conscious of his power. So I just don't see the that Honey would be any less concerned than, or more concerned than what any other fighter is. Yeah, he's been rattled a couple of times, but most heavyweight fighters have, haven't they? What's that, pound for pound? Did you notice Eddie was telling Canelo to only throw one punch at a time? He said it multiple times to him on the stool. I didn't notice that, pound for pound king. No, I wasn't taking much notice of what was being said in between rounds. But yeah, there you go. Maybe he was told just to go through the motions and save himself for September. Who knows? Carl says, I like Rolly. He's a character. Exactly what boxing is all about. That's for sure. All right, we've still got a few comments to get through there. Any idea what day's been looked at for Tim? Would like to get over there for it. July 19, Jules, is the date. And it looks like T-Mobile Arena will be made official next week. But yeah, July 19th. Now, if you are looking to go, and you're looking for, well, there's not the flights aren't too bad at the moment. I sort of look at them daily just because I'm just infatuated by flights and when I'm going and what hotel rates and all that are. The airfares aren't too bad at the moment. You'll get a Qantas flight for a couple of grand, which is not too, actually might even be about 1,800 or something from Melbourne or Sydney, which is pretty good. If you're looking at a hotel to stay at or casino to stay at over there, Jules, or anyone else, my advice is it's a little bit pricier. The Palm, sorry, not the Palms, the Park MGM, right next door to T-Mobile Arena, and it is smoke-free. Most casinos in Las Vegas, you can go for it and smoke whatever you want, not just smokes, but all sorts of things you can smoke in the casinos, or they do smoke in there. But the Park MGM is very, very fresh and clean and smoke-free, and is literally right next door to T-Mobile Arena. Another one is New York, New York. It's a little bit cheaper than Park MGM. Not as probably as nice as the Park MGM, but again, right next door to the Park, T-Mobile. So if you're looking for that, that's my suggestions. Look them up. What's happened to Brian Castano? Must have made serious cash with his last fight. Still has plenty to offer. Since Charlo beat him, mate, he's gone. Haven't heard a peep from him, which is a shame because I'm with you, had a lot to offer. Justin Footed, how are you there, mate? Give credit to Rolly's trainer and good friend of mine, Ismail Salas, for refining the unrefined as he does. Good point, Justin. And you're right, Ismail Salas, an excellent trainer, one of the best in the business. Obviously, he's got Rolly humming and played a massive part in his beating Ryan Garcia over the weekend. I'll keep going through. What's that there, Monk? If Turkey's serious, he should hold a boxing event at the Colosseum in Greece. Isn't the Colosseum in Rome? You would never, unless there's obviously one in Greece as well, but they would never be able to get one at the Colosseum in Rome. I've been there, and I can tell you they're not going to let anything happen there. They could probably put it out the front of it or something like that, but it's not happening in there, I can assure you of that. What's that, Roscoe Dash? Turkey has employed Noonan and Coppinger. Yeah, well, I think Noonan is doing some stuff with the ring, I think. Yeah, and I think Anthony Cox that we had on here last week he said he's doing some stuff with the ring as well. So, pound for pound king, I couldn't care less if there's only one fan at the event. As long as it's a good fight, I'm tuning in. Yeah, good call. Funny when D-Style referred to Glenn Jennings as Lynden. Is that right, Dennis? I must have missed that bit there. I'm on his mind there. All right, Flash Wilson, what do you got? G'day. So great having Tazzy on tonight. Too good. I was kind of hoping a word about a potential 2026 WBC convention next year may have been mentioned, but yeah, I love the action taker, Tazzy. Yeah, look, I was going to mention the WBC convention, Flash, but Tazzy's got enough on his plate at the moment with the Terence Crawford thing, and I've got a feeling, I did speak to him about this, and I've got a feeling he's just put it on the back burner. It's still in motion. He's still talking to Mauricio Suleiman and the powers that be, but it's just parked at the moment. He's going to get past this one. This is a massive event to organise. We've got Terence Crawford, all his flights and accommodation and getting him at the gyms and these dinners, and the media's been massive as well, and lots of things to organise for this event. It's just not a matter of flying him over and saying, yeah, there you go, let's go, Terence. It's probably more complex than actually putting on a fight night. And I know full well what that takes. So I've got a feeling once this is done there, Flash, you will see him make some more inroads into the WBC convention. Now, that's a massive task. We're not just bringing out one guy here. We're bringing out a whole organisation out here and having to, get funding and grants and all this sort of stuff. And booking out hotels and cars and all this sort of stuff and buses, and it's going to be massive. But as I've said before, he's a go-getter, and if it can be done, I'm sure he'll give it a crack. Yeah, MJ versus Monster in September, says Eminem. Yep, can't wait, mate. Yep, MJ fighting into the month now. I can't remember who he's fighting, Eminem, but I know he's on soon. Any news on the Maloney twins? Well, I spoke to the team last week. I spoke to Andrew Maloney and Angelo Hyder and Tony Tolge. There's some big news coming as far as Andrew goes, so keep a lookout for that. I'm not so sure with Jason at the moment, Eminem. I think he's just treading water a little bit at the moment with a few things on the go, but nothing locked in at the moment. But as I said, just look out for Andrew in the near future, because there's going to be some big news on him. Andy actually found Munguia versus Sarashi rematch entertaining. Yeah, I did too, Andy. It wasn't too bad. Munguia toned down reckless offence and was more cautious to get the W. Sarashi was still throwing something back to keep it interesting. Yeah, well, he was dangerous, wasn't he, with Sarashi, Andy? Yeah, I'm with you. I thought Munguia, and it would have been so hard to fight somebody that's knocked you out clean before, but I thought he fought a really smart fight. So, yeah, well done to Jaime Munguia. What's that? Riley Frame. Hi, late to the chat. I went for Ryan to win, but 1 hour before the fight, I had a gut feeling and place to bet on. Rolly, happy win. Dollars I don't usually even bet. That's awesome, Rayleigh. Well, you would have got some good odds, I'm assuming, so congratulations on that. Will you be doing a watch-along for Sam Goodman if you're not putting it on at the KO Lounge? I'm not paying for that. Yes, I will, Naz. Very, very reluctantly. I'll be paying I think it's $50, I think it is, for Sam Goodman and the Harry Garside fight event. So these are the things I do for you guys now. So yes, I can say now I will be doing the watch along. So I'm certainly not going to pay $500 or $600 at the pub to put it on. I can tell you, I'll pay the $50 and put it on here, and you can all watch me do my best to commentate it. I think we might be almost getting to the end here, guys. So what do we got? All right. Andy, if Canelo beats Bud, I expect Bivol rematch to follow. If Bud upsets Canelo, expect Canelo-Bud rematch. Yep, throw a Eubank in there. Is it worth $400 million? I don't know, but we'll be watching. I would think, I think if Canelo beats Bud, I'm expecting him to fight Chris Eubank Jr. in England, Andy, and then maybe Bivol after that, I would think. Because Bivol, you would think, will fight Beterbiev at the end of this year. Then I reckon he might fight Benavides after that. And if he gets through that, I reckon Bivol and Canelo might fight at the end of the year, end of 2026, that is. What's that there? Tell him about that time Tazzy left you, hopped the railing or whatever to catch the great Duran. Well, it was actually Nonito Donaire, Andy. We were at the Triple G and Canelo fight at the T-Mobile Arena, and just down, well, below us, to the side was Nonito Donaire with his, like a VIP lounge type of thing, and they were having a drink and enjoying the fights. And Tazzy said, well, Nonito Donaire, I've got to get to him after the fights had finished, when they were down there mingling, preparing to call it a night. Tazzy got over the railing and jumped over to the next, or where the VIP lounge was, and fair dinkum, there's probably about a metre gap straight down. And we were right up the top. There would have been curtains for Tazzy. There'd be no Bud Crawford coming to Australia, I can tell you. And no ringside seat with Tazzy. And he jumped over, and all thought, you crazy bastard. But that's what he was prepared to do to meet Nonito Donaire. Nonito Donaire ended up putting his arm around him, taking a photo with him, and now they're best mates. So there you go. I did the smart thing and went out and got an elevator down to the suite and got into the suite and met Nonito Donaire and everyone else in there as well. But Tazzy, just nothing was going to hold him back. Not even probably a 20 or 30 metre drop down below was going to keep him from meeting Nonito Donaire. What's that, Rayleigh? Can't help but think something is going on behind the scenes of these Riyadh fights. Fighters don't seem to fight their best knowing they're already getting big paydays. Yep, that seems to be the thoughts there, Rayleigh. What's that, Liam? Coxie, the best rider from down under, sets the standard for the rest of us. Very underrated, Liam, is Anthony Cox. So make sure he's on. If you're on X, I think he's the Aussie boxing scribe on there. And then jump on the ring, and you'll see him on there as well. So and a good man as well. He used to always come to my events in Melbourne, and knows what he's talking about. That's for sure. A couple more comments before we call it a night. Rolly mentioned in the interview he was disrespected. No hotel room for him, but he didn't care and focused on his fight. I did see that, Rayleigh. What's that, Glenn? Problem is, when they're getting paid so much for non-title fights, then why push to get to the next level? As prize fighters, their aims have already been achieved. That's what I saw. Seems to be the thoughts of many, Glenn. I think they're a little too comfortable at the moment, aren't they? Jules says 0.1% of fighters getting paid too much. 99.9% of fighters are struggling with day jobs. Yeah, another good point. Fix boxing by investing in it and helping those who need it, particularly former fighters. Yeah, well, I said before, Jules, that extra $80 million, whatever that Canelo got paid, or 40, whatever the hell it was he got paid. Geez, how, the good that could have been that money used for as far as former fighters and, giving the middle range fighters bigger paydays, all this sort of stuff. Does Canelo really need to earn an average of $100 million a fight? Doesn't make sense to me. Anyway. Pound for pound king after Bud's performance at 154. Turkey was saying he didn't want to do the Canelo fight for a few weeks. Well, that's obviously changed now. What's that there? Glenn would have agreed with you previously, Jules, but what I'm seeing is guys like the 6 on Saturday cruising are not taking any risks. Yep. All right, we've got a couple more. Yeah. Eddie talks to Canelo in Spanish, then Sergio Mora translates. Yeah, I did notice that pound for pound. That's with Canelo. All right, I think we might be there. So you guys talking amongst yourselves. What's this here? Anything happening meal-wise at the pub of Mother's Day? We'll be up that way visiting Mum. Sorry, Dennis. We're still awaiting our certificate from the council, the Bendigo Council, to be able to serve food, mate. So we've lodged all our paperwork and everything, but until they give us the tick, mate, we can't serve food, unfortunately. But I'll let you know, mate. And if you are up again that way, then come in for a feed, mate. All right, guys. Look, I think that is it for tonight. I know there's a few more comments in there, you guys talking amongst yourselves, and that's great. You can knock yourselves out there, but that's going to do us for tonight's show. Make sure you tune in every morning for walking boxing. Normally have the videos up by about sort of 9 to 10 o'clock, something like that. Depends on how quick it uploads. Sometimes it takes 5 minutes. Sometimes it takes 5 friggin' hours. But anyway, that's YouTube for you. On Wednesday night, our dream fights will be Costa Zoo. So tune in for that one. If follow us on Instagram, the polls will go up probably tomorrow afternoon. So you can log on there and have your say in who you think Costa Zoo or how he would fare against all those other great fighters from the past. And then on Wednesday night, we will go through all the results, and I'll give my take on who I think would win and why between Costa and all the greats. Now, just quickly, those names so far haven't 100% decided on it, but we've got names like Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, Miguel Cotto, Roberto Duran, Pernell Whitaker, Meldrick Taylor, Vinny Pazienza, Oscar De La Hoya, Aaron Pryor. Did I say Camacho? I think I did. Timothy Bradley. I know I just said him as well. But anyway, all these fighters in there will be matched up against Costa Zoo on Wednesday night. So, guys, have a great week. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next Monday night on Talking Boxing.